I will call to order the special call city council meeting of Monday, September 13th, 2021 at 6 p.m. President in chambers tonight is myself as well as each member of council, along with our city administrator, Mr. Brandon Madden. Our city clerk, I believe, is attending via remote in order to do this as she has a family matter. And we also have Ms. Abercrombie and Mr. Putnam in the audience with us tonight. So appreciate that. We're in September. So in our rotation, Mr. Craylen, you have the invocation and the pledge of allegiance for the month of September.
Those of you inclined, please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all the blessings that you've given this city, blessings you've given us individuals, and the grace you show our country. Help guide our small town people here to do your will, your way, and to find the right blend of what's good and what's right as an outcome of our work here tonight. Thank you. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Craylen. Welcome to our meeting tonight. We'll move, since there is no public, we will move directly into our new business. Asking council to consider a motion for a couple of executive sessions. Would anyone like to speak up?
Mayor, move that we enter executive session to consider contractual matters related to Community Development Department under section 30-4-70A2 and for personnel matter allowed under 30-4-70A1.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Madden. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second for Mr. Reynolds. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to enter executive session for the two state statutes as recited by Mr. Matney, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. We will consider ourselves in heading upstairs in conference room for executive session is approximately 6:02 p.m. All right, we are coming back from executive session back to council chambers. Would someone like to report out?
Thank you, Mayor. Coming out of executive session at 7:51, no decisions were made, no votes were taken.
Thank you, Mr. Matt. Okay, next item, new item is possible action on items discussed in executive sessions. Is there anything? Hearing none, we move to public comment. Any public comment via Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, no public comment. Council request.
Move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Any objection? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, we are adjourned at 7:52. We will now go to our committee meetings. The next first committee up tonight is Finance and Policy.
Okay. Go ahead and call this committee, Finance and Policy Committee meeting to order. The date is September 13th. The time is 6:52 and 32 seconds. Members present are myself, the chair, Michael Reynolds, Ms. Carol King, and Ms. Diane Kuznar are all present in chambers. We also have various council members here, as well as Mr. Madden, Ms. Holly Abercrombie, and Mr. Mark Putnam as our HR director. Our first item is public comment. Being no public, we're going to skip that one. Next item is going to be reading and approval of minutes. This is from the meeting dated July 12th, 2021. What do I hear on those?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Thank you, Ms. King. I have a motion to approve committee meeting minutes as submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved as submitted, 3-0. Next item is going to be reports and communications from city officers. Mr. Brandon Madden, you're up first.
Mr. Chair, this first quarter of the new fiscal year, the city's administration budget is in line for where it should be. There are no changes or anything out of the ordinary for this time of the year.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. You have any other updates for us within the administration department?
No, not at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. Next item is going to be Ms. Holly Abercrombie, this is the finance director.
Yes. Just that, overall, everything looks to be where it should be, for this time of year. You know, there's not been any crazy things come up and happen so far, so everything's good.
Can you make that noise stop? Any items outside of finance department that we need to be aware of, Ms. Abercrombie?
No, just still currently working on the document storage system and getting that installed through human resources finance and yes. So we're still currently working through that and I think it's gonna be a great asset to us, our three departments and the eventual citywide.
Excellent.
That's all I have.
Okay, Ms. Abercrombie, we have any questions for Ms. Abercrombie? Very good. Next item is going to be Mr. Mark Putnam, our HR director. I'm sure he's going to talk about insurance soon.
Good evening. How are y'all? Just wanted to let you know that we have finished the review process for the city. We did that right on schedule. You should be or feel good about your department heads. They did an excellent job this year looking at the reviews before they got to the HR level. So there was a very minimal pushback from our group, very few. So a very smooth process, and we appreciate everybody working as hard as they did on that. So that's what we've got going on. We start meeting next week with our insurance brokers, and we'll be coming to y'all forward in the next few weeks or about next month with details on where we stand on our health benefits. Any questions?
Do you have any questions for Mr. Putnam? All right, committee. Mr. Putnam, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Excuse me. Okay, moving on. Next item is going to be unfinished business, which we have none under this line item. So we have 4 items under new business. Purchasing policy amendment. This is going to be page 5 in your packet. Mr. Madden, would you like to take this?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is a resolution to amend the city's procurement policy to allow for only the mayor pro tem, or the city administrator execute contracts that are over $15,000.
Very good. One question I had, actually, I'd like to have a motion on this before we discuss.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to amend the purchasing policy. Policy.
Thank you,
Let me start that all over. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to amend the purchasing policy.
Thank you, Ms. King. I have a motion to approve the purchasing policy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kuznar. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Any questions or comments as submitted? One of the, and this is a wording thing for me, as I read through the first line item, mayor shall have the authority to execute contracts that obligate the city financially or otherwise, which are approved by the mayor and council. Does that need to be reworded in the event that there is an item that, for instance, the mayor, not mayor, just mayor in general for future reference? All better. Thank you, Mr. Madden.
And
I
so-
think from, and I just, from a, maybe reading too much into this, but as I think of making sure if there is a policy that the mayor may vote against, like council has a 6-1 vote on, would that give him the option to not sign that document?
No, the way it's set up now, documents are executed at the pleasure of council. So if majority vote is for a particular contract, then the mayor would have the authority to execute it. Let's say in a situation where the mayor did not execute a document, if Mayor Pro Tem is available, Mayor Pro Tem can execute that document. You go on page 5, it kind of lists through under analysis of staff findings, 5 points related to the amendment of the policy, and it'll allow for really 3 options there to execute documents, starting with the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. That was my one concern with the way that was worded. And the only other question I had was within your department heads and all other employees, you also had that they will be acknowledging that they've been provided of the copy of the policy and that violation of this policy will result in immediate termination. Is that, that's hefty. Is that one you would like in there, some, in the event that a mistake is made or something like that? My concern is that may be a bit of a hefty. You have to go to termination if a department head did that unwillingly or unknowingly rather. Does that make sense?
So any personnel action that results in a termination has to be approved by the administrator. In instances where there may have been an oversight or that there was the department director signed an agreement unintentionally, then discretion will be used.
That would be my concern for you, as this doesn't seem to leave much discretion.
It certainly can be amended. This is a recommendation of the city's attorney. The word will could be changed to may to provide some discretion there for the administrator.
Committee thoughts?
I agree of changing that word will to may.
Ms. King, would you be good with that?
Yes, sir, I don't have a problem with that. Even though I do understand the context as it was written, based off of past actions. So I understand it, but yes, I think that would make it clear that our city administrator would have, be able to have discretion in a case if needed.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item? I have a motion to forward this to full council. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Carries unanimous. All right, the next item is going to be city phone service provider. This is 29 in your packet. I recall this DC3 was probably, I think this happened when I was on council the first time, a long time ago. So we're looking at transitioning from DC3 to Segra for the voice over internet protocol services for the city phones. Mr. Madden.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, the city currently uses VC3 to provide its phone services citywide. That contract is slated to terminate November of this year, end of November of this year. Staff would recommend not extending that agreement, not renewing that agreement with VC3, but rather move forward with Segra, who is on state contract. Staff has had preliminary discussions with Segra. Staff which will realize a cost savings for its voice services. And so staff would recommend moving forward with Segra as its provider once the VC3 contract expires in November.
And I have it jotted down that roughly $2,900 a month in savings.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. What do I hear on this item?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to forward to full council the recommendation to approve transitioning from BC3 to Segra to provide the city phone service.
Thank you, Ms. King. I have a recommendation to forward to full council with the recommendation of approval for the city phone service. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, Ms. Kuznar. Thank you. Have any other discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor in forwarding this item to full council with a recommendation of approval to transfer from VC3 to Segra under the SC state procurement contract. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimous. Mr. Madden and Ms. Abercrombie, thank you. Constantly looking for ways to save the city taxpayers dollars. Okay. Next up is going to be item C. There are two parts of this. One of them is designating, this is for the American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA funds. These are covered in page 43 through 57 in your packet. Mr. Madden, would it be prudent to have this as two separate items? One as a resolution designating authorized representative and contact person for the purposes of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. If we can take these as two separate items for approval with it.
Yes.
Thanks,
Mr. Chair.
So the first item we're going to look at is going to be a resolution designating an authorized agent, representative, and contact person for the purposes of the ARPA funds. What do I hear on this item?
So moved as stated, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion in this? Within this, this has our authorized agent is Mr. Madden as the city administrator. Okay. I have a motion and a second with no other discussion. What do I hear on this item? I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimous to forward to full council to have Mr. Madden as our authorized representative and contact purposes for ARPA. Okay, second part of this is recommended spending plan for the first tranche of the coronavirus recovery funds made available through the ARPA plans. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Madden. I like it. Mr. Abercrombie, jump right in there.
So we're gonna go over our spending plan that, the staff has come together and, put together for council to see. But first of all, we'll go over just some of the brief overview of ARPA. If you don't already know, it was approved by, our Joe Biden's, staff in March of 2021. And that date is where the, money can start, that you can, that the date that you look back to in any money that you get, because it's kind of forward looking. But anyway, it was like a $1.9 trillion bill given, split up with, direct payments to, places with, cities with over 50,000 population. And then Malden falls into the, non-entitlement cities of ones that fall below that, where the money's gonna go to the state. And, once the state requests it, they have 30 days to turn around and send those funds out to, the cities, the non-entitlement units. Our total allotment is $12,649,770. It's gonna be broke up into two equal tranches. The first will be, said 30 days when the state requests it, and it'll be, the other tranche will be a year after that.
That exact date as well.
Correct.
And can you update us, has South Carolina requested their ARPA funds yet?
I don't know that.
Yes, I believe they requested August 30th.
Thank you. Matt?
And then, the eligible uses, there's four basic, eligible uses under this, plan. And that's basically to respond to the public health emergency or its negative economic impacts. This includes assistance to households, small businesses, nonprofits, or to aid impacted industries such as, hospitality, tourism, travel, and hospitality. It is also to provide, pay to essential workers that worked during the pandemic, providing them premium pay. There's also the use of, vision, for giving us, revenue recovery, which they gave us a calculation and we followed it, and, you come up with your number. And then the last is to make investments in, broadband, sewer, water, and, stormwater. The things that the funding cannot be used for is to offset, revenues from a tax cut, or, to make pension fund deposits, debt service payments, legal settlement payments, or, deposits to financial reserves. And the cover of the cost of general infrastructure spending can only happen on the allocated amount under the revenue loss provision. The dates that you need to know are, everything has to be obligated by the December 31st of 2024. And then it has to be spent by December 31st of, and then like I said before, the window is from 3/3/2021 going forward. And we are gonna have, to do quarterly reports, and I'm not sure yet if, I'm pretty sure it is, but we haven't got a definitive answer of, these are federal funds, so it's probably gonna qualify for a special audit, because it goes over the 750,000 amount. So just to give you, keep that in your mind. So in this plan, we broke down based on the four uses, and, overall for the COVID-19 prevention and mitigation, we came up with 798,000, broken down into ventilation for the building, public facilities here in Malden, and then also using GCRA to help out, small businesses and impacted populations. And then under the eligible use for the payroll and premium pay and the payroll benefits that get covered, broke that down into, basically two little pots, where we get recovery for, having our on the back of trash trucks, having to do the temporary workers for their trash service, and then, just any kind of COVID pay that happened where people were out for it, or, and then police police department overtime pay for being, all of that came up to, about 399,000. And then the rest of it, we put in for premium pay for essential workers, basically the front lines, that had to work during this. And that came up to 840,000 for a total of $1.1 million in the pay bucket. And then in our revenue reduction, I mean, that is just $1.7 million to be exact, $1,780,989.
This is just an
Pull back,
put in. This is just an equation. You put numbers in and
absolutely. They told us
Okay.
exactly how to figure it out, what to use as our base year, and then how to go forward. That's what we did. And that's where we came up. And that can go straight back to your general fund and be used. And then the last is, for water, sewer, and broadband. And, we broke that down into, sewer, where we're gonna do 1.375 million. Some of which is work on the sewers, the other is equipment that's needed. And then the stormwater came up to 1.1 million for a total of $2 million overall in that thing. So overall, we came up with all of those little buckets that equal our $6 million for the city to use our funds. And, the biggest chunk of it is in the sewer, the stormwater, where we propose to spend it. If you have any particular questions, I will be glad.
these are funds that are coming from the federal government that will give cities like ours, especially looking forward thinking like our stormwater, the ability to have capital that you can't just print. Apparently they can. So it is prudent of us to use that in a way that will help the infrastructure. Certainly the city of Malden is known for some stormwater issues, and this addresses in part of that in the first tranche, and certainly we'll be able to take a look next year in other ways as well. So any questions or comments for Ms. Abercrombie as we have it?
Thank you, Holly. Very detailed presentation. Proud of you.
Thank you, Ms. Abercrombie. Okay, this is the second item for 6C. Do I have any motion?
I'll make a motion to send the spending plan for the first tranche of the ARPA funds as recommended to full council for review and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Kuznar. I have a recommendation to send to full council with a recommendation of approval. Did I hear that correctly? Thank you. With a recommendation of approval for the ARPA funds as detailed. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, committee. It carries unanimous. Okay, last item on our new business is going to be item D, 6D. This is FY 2022 initiatives, page 58 in your packet. Ms. Abercrombie, are you going to take this one, or Mr. Madden going to grab the mic this time?
I'll take it, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Madden.
Members of the committee, there are a number of capital initiatives that are either included in the CIP or have been discussed via the council goals for fiscal year 2022. And at this time, staff would request the committee's consideration of those capital initiatives for moving forward during the current fiscal year 2022.
2021, 2022, correct. Thank you, Mr. Madden. Okay. What are here on this item?
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to forward to full council on the consideration for the funding fiscal year 2022 initiatives as presented.
Thank you, Ms. King. I have a motion to forward to full council for
Second.
consideration. I have a second. Thank you, Ms. Kuznar. Any other discussion on this line item? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous to forward that to full council. Okay, our last item is going to be another public comment section. Any public like to take a chance to speak to the committee? Now would be the time. Hearing none. Committee concerns for finance and policy. Hearing none from committee. One other update we've talked about, Mr. Madden we've requested legal to work on how we evaluate our process in how we deal with businesses that may not adhere to some of the city's standards in a number of ways. So we've asked legal to work on that. This came up through Club Ethic. So that'll be something that'll be coming down the pipe at some point. I believe we have it scheduled for next month. Is that what we were talking, Mr. Madden?
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. So that'll be one other thing we have coming, other committee concerns or requests for next month's council meeting. Hearing none. What do I hear on adjournment?
So moved.
A double so moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, committee. The time is 8:19. Finance and Policy. The next committee meeting is going to be Economic Planning and Development Committee.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and call tonight's EPD committee meeting to order. It's 8:20. All committee members are here. Mr. Madden, city administrator's here, Mr. Broad's here. And we're going to go ahead and go to our first public comment period. Do I have any public to comment? Hearing none, we'll move forward to the reading and approval of minutes. What do I hear?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Sorry.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Minutes are approved as submitted. Reports, communications from city officers. Mr. Broad.
Report this evening. I apologize for not having a budget update, but I will get one out to you guys to look at. But I feel assured that we are in great standing. And I just appreciate everybody's kindness over the last month.
Glad to have you, my friend. We don't have any old business. We do have a couple of pieces of new business. The first being Carolina Piedmont Railroad reimbursement agreement. Mr. Madden, you want to take this?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. So the agreement that you have before you is to reimburse Carolina Piedmont Railroad for work to coincide with the City Center Phase 1 Streetscape project. The railroad project will allow for the closure of a five-way intersection, railroad crossing at Murray, Miller, Jenkins Street, and Alexander Street, and also allow for a new railroad crossing that will extend Jenkins Street to Hyde Circle. So this is reimbursing the railroad for doing that work.
Do I have a motion?
This time I'd like to make a motion to approve the reimbursement agreement with Carolina Piedmont Railroad.
Is there a second?
Second, and this is going to full council.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Want to go ahead and forward that on to full council. Next is cost reimbursement agreement with Parker Group. Mr. Madden, do you want that one or you want Mr. Broad?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the committee. So this agreement is related to the property exchange agreement that council executed with the Parker Group, which allowed for the Parker Group to request reimbursement for public improvements to the project site at 1 East Butler Road. And so Parker Group has submitted cost estimates for that work. That work has been reviewed. The cost estimate has been reviewed by staff along with a draft reimbursement agreement that's submitted before you this evening, which is what staff is requesting council consideration on.
Questions for Mr. Madden? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. We already made the motion. That's how we got the discussion.
Aye.
Or did I just make that part up in my head?
Sorry, I was
don't
on
think you made a motion.
6A. This is 6B.
Oh, we didn't make the motion yet.
Right.
Is there a motion?
Right, yes, I would like to make a motion to send this resolution and reimbursement agreement to full council for consideration and approval.
Is there a second?
Where's the second?
Is there discussion? Hearing none, let's try it again. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We're sending this one on to full council. That brings up 6C, resolution for multi-county industrial park. Mr. Madden?
Yes, Mr. Chair, member of the committee, I would like to first bring your attention to the exhibits for the proposed infrastructure reimbursement agreement. Mr. Merritt brought it to my attention that the exhibits provided incorrect. And so I have a copy of the correct exhibits for those agreements that I'll give to you today. But what's being requested is an amendment to the current intergovernmental agreement the city has with the school district, Greenville County, Anderson, and Anderson County. So the city center project, which is where Bridgeway Station is being constructed, is in a multi-county industrial park. That multi-county industrial park agreement expires on December 31st, 2045. Along with that is a reimbursement agreement through that expires August 25th, 2037. So what's being requested via the resolution is an amendment to that will, number one, extend the term of the IGA to match the current term of the multi-county industrial park. So the IGA will be extended to 12/31/2045. Also, what will happen is that through this, it will extend the split of MSIP revenues between the city and the school district for another 4 years, or until the 24th year of this agreement. And it also will add additional parcels into the MSIP, which are outlined in the agenda packet. I will say there was an error on page 64 of the agenda packet that said that this would extend the terms of the MSIP. It will only extend the terms of the IGA to match the current term of the MSIP, which doesn't expire until December 31st, 2045. So in order for this to move forward, it would require approval by Greenville County and Anderson County. They have already given first and second reading approvals to that. They're slated to give third reading approval next week. And so the council is requested to consider approving this amendment to the agreement.
Do we have a motion?
This time I'll make a motion to consider or for the first vote, right, there's two votes in this.
It would be a resolution to amend it that would send it to full council.
Okay, approval. I'm clear. This would go to council twice. So if there's more questions, it does not.
No, it would be done through a resolution. So we'll be amending the agreement through a resolution. You wouldn't have to approve it twice.
Could we see the additional properties?
Yes, they're outlined and in the packet, but what I'll do is I'll provide a map prior to the council meeting that will outline the current MSIP boundaries and the additional parcels that are being requested to be added to the current MSIP.
Because my only concern is there something there we don't have everything here. If it showed up, then we get there, we have to turn it back, put us even farther behind.
Yeah, I'll make sure that council has the map that shows the additional parcels. because what you have in your packet is just the tax map number and a description of each parcel that's being added. And so I'll provide a map so that it's clear the parcels that are being added.
And we'll have the final agreements from both Anderson and Greenville counties that we would be affirming in the first place.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to forward to full council the approval of a resolution to add properties into the Center Point MSIP Multi-County Industrial Park.
And is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, forwarding that to full council. And that brings us to our final piece of new business tonight, amendment to the lease agreement.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, the city entered into a 3-year lease of the Gosnell Cabin with Pop's Creamery in December of last year. There was a provision in the lease that allowed for a 6-month period from March of 2021, where the tenant, Pop's Creamery, would not have to pay a rent for the property. And in discussions with Pop's Creamery, that March date was based on a opening date of the business. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, the opening did not occur until June of this year rather than March. So what's being requested is to amend the lease agreement so that the rent starts in December of this year as opposed to September, the month we're currently in.
Do we have a motion?
This time I'd like to amend, forward to full committee, full council, amendment to the lease agreement with Pop's Creamery.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. This goes to full council. That brings us up to our second public comment period. Do we have any public to comment? We have one public actually here. Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mayor, if you could step to the microphone, because we have actually had requests from people who have been viewing online that they have not been able to hear. Thank you.
Terry Mayor, 214 Fairfield Drive, Malden, South Carolina. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just request that we get additional information prior to our council meeting on the multi-county industrial park, on the 6 parcels that we're being asked to amend the MSIP agreement for. There is an existing building there that was the old Samsung call center that was supposed to be under lease for another company. I think we've approved that prior to several meetings ago type thing. And we're being asked to include 3 parcels of property on the front of that that were slated to be part of the agreement for that school that was going to rent it. Now they want to put them on the MSIP. So I'm confused as to why in MSIP when he already had a private development there that he was leasing out. So just if we could get Mr. Hughes to explain that a little more detail, at least on those 3, the other 4 I understand. I'd appreciate additional information from the council. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else? Do we have anybody online, Mr. Madden?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. So no public comment. Do we have committee concerns? Hearing none, what do I hear on adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We're adjourned at 8:33.